So the Winton Kindergarten is page 193.
So you just follow that. All the way over. There you go. Drop there. That's the chairman. Mr. Paul Duffy up there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are we?
Good. We're excited.
Good. So are we. We're very pleased to see you.
Will I come down here with everyone? Would that be okay? Should we introduce ourselves? Who could introduce himself first? Well, hi, I'm Christina. I'm a teacher from Winton Kindergarten, and we're really excited to be here to share with you our submission this morning. Who have we got?
Oh, kia ora, Christina.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to all.
Want to introduce yourself, Harriet? Hi, I'm Harriet.
Hi, I'm Harriet.
Hi.
Who's this way, Harriet? Who's that? Hi, I'm Lexie.
Hi, I'm Lexie.
Who's beside Lexie? Hi, I'm Lizzie. It's awesome. Do you want to say hi, I'm Lizzie?
Hi, Lizzie.
We've got Lizzie. Who's beside Lizzie down there?
Hi, I'm Alex.
This is Alex. And back here, very special boy, we've got Timo back here. I think he's well known to some of us in here. Fabulous. Is this my
So you come
as
and
well?
talk to us.
Oh. I'll see how it goes. Cool, so we've put together our project. We've been working on this for the better half of post-COVID. Winton is a special place to all of us, being Winton Kindergarten is in the heart of our town, and the children have got lots to share with you about their project, as we have in our submission, their thoughts and feelings about the buildings and what might need to happen with some of them. So our project started with sort of thinking about our landscape that makes up Winton, our CBD, all the buildings that line the streets, and just really thinking about them structurally. What do they look like? What's in them? And getting to know our place better. And then we headed out and about. Who came on this trip? You were there, Alex. What did we go and see?
The old building.
All the old buildings. And what did we notice when we were looking at these buildings?
There's grass on the roof.
There's grass up on the roof. And what did we think about the grass being on the roof?
Not safe.
Didn't look very safe. Didn't look very loved or cared for, some of these buildings. And if they're not looked after, what might happen?
Break.
Some of the buildings could break. Did we notice any buildings breaking? Have we noticed anything happening to the buildings, Timo? What did you see, Timo?
There's what?
There's cracks, lots and lots of cracks in the buildings around Winton. There was a hotel that you noticed in Winton, but what was different about this hotel? No people in this hotel. And Timo, the first weekend post-lockdown, I was in Queenstown, and as we went past on electric scooters, I saw two little boys standing outside a very nice hotel, Timo and his brother. And then when we went out on this walk, he made the comment about the bottom pub in Winton, that it's a hotel and no one is there, but not because of COVID, because of all the cracks that are in there, and that it's not safe. The Big White Shop is one of our favourite places as kindy kids, after a hard day at kindy, but we do have a lot of historical buildings that surround the Big White Shop, and with limited parking, the buildings that are beside it are a real hazard for us if they're not maintained. Our project was really big, very, very long, so luckily Lizzie and Lexie were great artists and writers, and they were able to draw lots of the old buildings that we have along Winton's Main Street. So our poster that we've got, oh, it's behind us, girls. Did you notice that when we came in? All the buildings along Winton, the whole Main Street, our piece of paper just got longer and longer. So we have all our drawings up there and the process that was involved with that, and just talking about some of the buildings that we knew well, some of the buildings that we didn't have a connection with, and that was quite a big theme for us as we went through this project, that we have ideas and that we have our imagination to sort of think about what might be, what these buildings might be used for, but we're unable to connect with them if they don't actually house any businesses. And that seems to be something that just is continuing with buildings, businesses moving out of the buildings and finding premises elsewhere, these children don't have a personal connection to what is in these buildings because we aren't able to utilise them. This is us out and about noticing the different architecture and design around the town. And knowing these buildings foster our sense of citizenship, belonging and home. I am part of this community and the community is a part of me. And like we said, the vacant buildings hold value in their beauty, in their history, and being a part of the Winton landscape. It's what we come to know, it's what we expect when we drive down the street, it's what we see. But it was important that we keep going out and looking at these buildings and thinking about, is there somewhere that these children, when they grow up and have families of their own, they are the business owners and occupiers, is there somewhere that they're going to be able to prosper or not? And a theme that sort of came out from our continual visits around the town were, how safe are these buildings? There are so many cracks in these buildings. What needs to happen to them? And Alex, you were quite concerned with earthquakes. And what might happen if there were earthquakes? Some of these buildings could break. I don't think it would take a very big earthquake for some of these buildings to topple. And why is that, Alex? What could we see?
Cracks.
So many cracks. And then the thoroughfares between the buildings. So there's the Main Street of Winton that we go along, but also our kindergarten is on Park Street, which backs the main road. And so for us, we go between various thoroughfares to get through to the main street. We're often down there for different reasons, whether it's partaking in celebrations in our town. We've just had our Santa Parade and Winton Open Night, and all of these provide access ways for us to get through. And for us, we just notice how unsafe they are. If you're going between two historic buildings and they're not maintained, how unsafe is it for us as a kindergarten? I think your name's up there, Alex. 60,000 earthquakes will make the hotel fall down and the people inside will die. The cracks in the building, well, it's not safe because it might break if the people in there are moving around. The earthquakes are making cracks in the walls. And we've mentioned the disconnect that we feel. We're aware of this landscape and it's our what we come to know, and it's what creates community for us as we in Winton, but we aren't personally connected to what is inside these buildings because we can't go in them. There's an example here. This is the old post office beside Anzac Oval, and Lenora described it as a castle, and I think the Queen lives there, which is so beautiful, but again just highlights that we don't have a personal connection to these buildings. This is quite interesting. We're outside of Heritage, on the Heritage Trail around Winton, but these buildings are closed, they're not maintained, the sign's falling off. And Harper made the comment, I drive past all these buildings from my nanny's office. It reminds me of going shopping. You can go in them, but not all of them. Some are not a shop because it has no food, it's just old. So we just have to go get food at the white shop. And maybe heaps of people need to have the shops open again. So part of what we do at Kindy is we notice these problems, but we also like to be solutions focused, and so the children were coming up with ways and means to think about, if these buildings aren't being utilised, what could we do? How can we fix this problem? Emerson, I've seen this building before, but there are no shops inside. And this was quite a big conversation between two friends, Angus and Andy, talking about our buildings. Maybe the ones that are so old that might have got crashed down, like the back of them got smashed down, but the front of them didn't. I've seen this in town, where they break the back off it, but they leave the front, and that's just a reflection on the CBD rebuilding in the Cargill. Andy, I think they will build a museum behind it. We don't have a museum in Winton because they didn't build one. Angus, a museum is something that has lots of bones. Andy, yeah, like dinosaur bones and deer bones and maybe a rabbit bone. I think Winton needs a museum so that we can have some animals, but the animals would have to be dead. Maybe we could use the old buildings in Winton that don't have anything in them. If the building is too old, maybe we need to just break it down and build a new one. Or maybe we could fix the buildings with the builders. If we're going to keep them, then we need to clean them and keep them clean so that they don't break again. We would need to get the cracks out. It has cracks because it wobbles. Maybe we just need to fix the bits with the cracks. We know they are old because there is bird poo and some things are cracking. Quite a full process there for some of us. And Timo, you had a thought about the Jameson's building, which is in the heart of Winton as well. And Timo said, we live in Winton. I think the white one is old. Just look up at the roof. I can see cracks on the roof, so probably it's going to break down. That's what I think. I feel like it's going to crash down because it was built a long time ago. Some of the buildings are newer, so we don't need to fix them because they have no cracks. Some of them are hotels, but no one stays there because of COVID and because they are old. Does that sound about right, Timo? And then Marley was just black and white. I drive past all these buildings and they are old. And then we'd mentioned the bottom pub already about being quite old and the concern with earthquakes. And I think this is where you were, Alex, with worrying about this huge building on the corner being quite unsafe if there were earthquakes. I always look at that one when I go past. There are some cracks in it. It could break because there are cracks in it. 2 big cracks in that building because it's very, very old. And it's starting to split into pieces. That building can't have people. If people walk on the footpath, it could break and hit you. It could squash us. The building could go into little pieces. Quite a lot of concern about the health and safety in our town. And then we noticed in here right beside the Reef building, which is a new building in Winton, where an old building has been demolished, and we were just noticing what that looked like in between the 2 buildings here. You can only fix the cracks with concrete. The concrete will dry out and maybe it will hold the building together. Or super glue. It could stick together so it doesn't break. And then Alex with the earthquakes again. And what if there were 60 earthquakes? All the people inside would die. And half finished with, you would need to run because it will fall on you if you walk. And then we've got the beautiful Winton Pharmacy, which we know has been maintained and houses a business in Winton. So Ada had to say, the building looks very old. I know they're old because no people look after them. I think they just want to go to the new buildings. But I know the one with the letters on it, Winton Pharmacy, is not old because people look after it and it has nice things in it. I wouldn't want to be in an old building because it might fall down. And Macy said, the old buildings are going to knock down because they are very old. I know they are old because my mum takes me to them, so I know these things. I do love the old buildings. They're beautiful and I love going inside them. But of course the safety of our whānau and our community is at the heart of our submission. As shared in the children's voices and art and writing, action is needed to ensure that Winton CBD continues to be a place we can all enjoy. This means that the prompt assessing, fixing, demolition, renovation or protection of historic buildings that have been left unmaintained for many decades is paramount. Is there anything else we want to add before we finish off? Got one last slide to share. Is there anything we could share about the buildings in Winton, Lexie? What do you think could happen to them? What should we do with them? Think we need to fix any of the buildings? How would we fix them? What would we need to do? We were talking in the foyer about being able to be in these buildings and how nice it would be if there were businesses in them. But if there aren't businesses in them, what could we do with the buildings?
Tell Christina we tell this one. Break them down and put some new ones, and we could make some new ones.
Thanks, Lexie. Have you got any ideas, Lizzie? How about you, Alex? Is there anything you want to add? What could you share? What do you think could happen?
There's the cracks.
The cracks? What could happen if there are cracks?
The full break.
What do you think we should do about that?
Fix them.
You think we should fix them? Timo, did you want to share anything else? That's all good. So in summary, thank you for the opportunity to present our submission this morning. As you can see in here, our children are proud, proactive citizens of our Central Southland community, and it's these tamarehi that are the future business owners and operators and young families who will be implicated by the decisions that are made here regarding earthquake-prone buildings in our hometown of Winton. Our inquiry project and subsequent submission has planted the seed for us to ponder and reflect further on the physical features that impede our sense of place and belonging, to contemplate the intrinsic, historic, cultural, social and emotional value associated with these buildings, and to ensure that health and safety of all who make up this special community is protected through the appropriate legislative powers afforded to Council. Ngā mihi nui, thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to say Councillor Fraser and Menzies are from Winton, and Councillor Keast used to live in Winton and work in the bank there, and me and Gary knows Winton very well, and my dad used to work in that post office and he went to school in Winton, and my cousins were the first went to the Winton kindy. I remember when it opened, so we know Winton a bit. So any questions from the committee?
Yeah, there's some questions on this one.
Yes.
Lizzie and Alex, they might have some questions for us about what we've shared this morning.
Firstly, thank you for coming, and thank you, Christine, for encouraging our children to think and to be citizens. That's really cool. I'm just wondering about, obviously kindy walks up and down the street. Do you see other schools and other kids walking up and down?
Yeah, I think every morning you just have to be driving through Winton at 8 o'clock or at 3 o'clock and you see we've got St Thomas's School, we've got Winton School, there's after school care, there's numerous childcare, so families are out walking, scootering, biking, pushing the prams down our main streets all the time, regardless of what's inside the buildings. It's used as a passageway to get to our schools and early childhood centres.
I remember going to see a pirate movie in that theatre years ago. Right, and it was in colour.
We're going to comment. You might be older, we're looking for your credits.
Right. Oh, look, I reiterate what Councillor Fraser said. Thanks so much for coming along. It's great to get a sense of the awareness of children around the places they live in. And yeah, very interested to hear what you have to say. So thanks for the effort.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I hope you all have a very happy Christmas.
I think we're going downstairs to decorate the tree, aren't we? Down in your yeah. Keep the decorations for us once we've finished. So Merry Christmas to you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, what's in there? Oh, lovely cakes. Did you need any for me? Did you need any chocolates for me? No. You did. Good girl. Now, we haven't got many decorations.
Lizzie, I'll hold on to your bag while you put. But it makes it easier if you put.
Mum, don't come back.
Look, Steve's got Lexie.
Anything out of your bag and eat it.
I bet there's snow on the tree.
Yeah, I made my move. Oh no. You can just go for it. You can just grab anything and go. And put it anywhere you like. You do that one, that's a special one. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Is that a unicorn?
I'll just send it all.
Do you want to pick it up? Look. That needs to go up. Who's going to reach up and do that one? Oh, whose mum's going to lift them high enough to do it? Oh, yeah. There's an angel too.
Oh, Liz. Whoa. How are we going to get up there? Just put it up as high as you can. Oh, angle.
Do you want a chair to stand on?
What's angle?
Hang on, you're right.
Right, just go as high as you can. Put it up. ones you can put down low.
If you guys can do all of those around the bottom, then we can finish the top later.